'Twas the night before Wimbledon, when all across the lawn not a linesperson was stirring, not even Ralph Lauren. The towels were hung for the players with care, in hopes that Novak and Roger soon would be there. The children were nestled, all snug in their beds, with visions of fathers clutching trophies in their heads. Simona with her trophy, Serena with her plate, you and I with predictions fall asleep quite late. When suddenly, on Mr. Wimbledon's lawn is a great commotion. We spring out of bed with the sincerest devotion. A break of serve here, fist pump, komm jetzt! The joker roars loudly as the champions are put to the test. A tear may be shed, a dream will be shattered, but the memory will always be with us, and that's all that ever mattered. This is it, the final show before the 2019 Wimbledon final. A night that I always compare to the night before Christmas, so why not? Why not redo the classic Christmas poem? Tennis, Wimbledon style. Mr. Wimbledon style. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis. I am your host, Matt Bradshaw, and I am about ready to wrap it all up after poring over stats, watching Federer, Djokovic, 2012 Wimbledon, 2014 Wimbledon, 2015 Wimbledon, watching some the quarterfinals, actually. David Goffin, who I call Cousin Fed because he is a distant relative of the Roger Federer playing style. Well, I shouldn't say distant. He is a relative. And here we are on our final show, and I just want to do my final thoughts on the match tomorrow before everyone goes to bed, before what's going to be surely a great match. One of the things that we've all been talking about, so amazing this Wimbledon, for a while people have been talking about it, but it just keeps happening, major after major. The big three dominate, and it feels like these guys have been winning everything since 2003. Obviously, Federer won one major in 2003, so not exactly that. But I just wanted to talk about what a major role the domination of the big three, let's say the big four, because Andy Murray's picked up some slack too, and don't forget Wawrinka, Del Potro, Marin Cilic. But what they have won in the last 15 years is tiny compared to what the big three have done. And when you remove the French Open, and for Raw fans, I apologize, I mean no offense by that, but if you do, it's just a fact. Joker and Roger have done a lot of heavy lifting. And that's why some people say, Djokovic is going to be the GOAT in the end. He's won the most Masters. His records are more impressive than Rafa everywhere except for the French Open. And the more I look at the history, the more I see how even Roger and Djokovic are in so many ways. They both have one French Open, right? They were tied at 6 Australian Opens each until Djokovic won this year, putting him at 7-6. Of course, Federer has a nice lead, 8-4 at Wimbledon. Will that be 9-4? Will that be 8-5? We'll find out very soon. And Roger leads a nice 5-3 at Wimbledon. If we go to the three other biggest tournaments around the world besides the four majors, Federer leads 6-5 at the World Tour Finals. In titles, we're talking not head-to-head. Indian Wells, they're even with 5 titles each. And Djokovic, my first tennis match I ever saw in person, his first Masters 1000, Miami. No wonder if he won the first one when I think he was 18 or 19. He's got 6. Federer, pretty impressive himself. He's got 4. Tomorrow will be their 16th meeting, which is the most meetings between any two players at a Grand Slam. They are the only two players to win at least 60 matches at all 4 majors. Each major, they've won at least 60 matches. They are the only two players to reach at least 10 quarterfinals at all 4 majors as well. And for 17 consecutive years, they have won at least 1 slam per year. They are the only two people in history that have numbers like these. Another thing that's very interesting about these two guys is Roger Federer is the only player to beat Djokovic at all 4 majors. And guess what? Djokovic is the only player to beat Federer at all 4 majors. So they're much more equal in the records than many would think. Now, of course, the ultimate record, Roger Federer has 20. Things can change tomorrow. There will be a gap of 2 if Djokovic wins, with Federer at 20, Rafa at 18, Djokovic at 16, and a gap of 3 if Roger wins, 15, 18, 21. Tomorrow is a very special day in tennis history. There's simply no way around it because it's really going to do a lot to shape what's going to happen and how this thing plays out. This, I don't know, the greatest race in tennis history, in sports history. It's really a special thing that we as tennis fans are all part of. Hopefully, you've been watching it for a long time, maybe as long as me. I've been watching tennis for, I think, exactly 15 years. The first time I ever watched tennis on TV was Wimbledon 2004. So I hope you were able to watch at least close to as much of as I've been. Some of you have been watching a lot longer than me. So who's going to win and who needs this more? I guess the obvious answer is Roger Federer. He's not getting any younger. He's in only a few weeks. He's going to be 38 years old. Now, I was explaining to someone who just started taking tennis lessons with me pretty recently how rare Roger Federer is. When you're talking to someone who's interested in tennis but doesn't know very much yet, they're very new to the sport, watching or playing. When you try to explain to them how special Roger Federer is, it can be pretty tough for them to really fully appreciate it. The whole situation, Djokovic, Federer, Nadal. I try to say that Federer is not just old, he's ancient in tennis. I explained to him that when I first started watching, Andre Agassi was 36 in 2005, making the finals of the U.S. Open. And and he might have been 35 at that point, actually, but maybe when he was retired the next year, he was 36. Either way, 35, 36, that was remarkable that he got to the final. And who was there to crunch him in good fashion? It was a respectable 4-set match, a young Roger Federer. Other than that, I can only think of two examples. Jimmy Connors makes a run at the U.S. Open to the semifinals in, 91, 93, the early 90s somewhere, I can't remember. The other occasion, a 39-year-old made the Wimbledon final. Ken Rosewall, probably one of the best people from tennis history to compare Roger Federer to. Guess who whooped him up? Beat him bad. So bad that his good friend John Newcombe vowed revenge and beat this fellow the next year at the Australian Open to defend his honor, Ken Rosewall's honor. That would be Jimmy Connors. Do you see the connection here? Old Rosewall, 39, makes it to the Wimbledon final and gets beat up by young Jimmy Connors. Old Jimmy Connors has the favor returned years and years later in the 90s at the U.S. Open. I wish I could say it was by Andre Agassi, but it wasn't. I think it was actually Jim Courier. And old man Andre Agassi makes it to the final U.S. Open to be beat up by young Roger Federer. Now old Roger Federer makes it to the Wimbledon final. Will the process repeat? I don't think so. I think Federer, he might be the guy that actually wins the thing when he goes to the final or the semifinal. So why do I think Roger Federer can do it? Well, you could make a case that he's a little bit more special than Agassi, Jimmy Connors, Ken Rosewall so long ago. How can I really say? But let's just go out on a limb here and say Roger Federer is a one-of-a-kind tennis player that you can't compare anyone to, other than Rafa and Djokovic, I guess, because they're the only people who are coming anywhere near as close to the kind of things Roger has done. But ultimately, the most important thing in tennis is you hold your serve. You hold your serve. And clearly, if we look at the tournament stats, first serve win percentage, ironically, Nadal is 81% win. He's ahead of the three. Federer at 80% win on first. Joker, 79. Okay, that's really close. And if anything, you might say, Matt, Nadal lost to Federer. Having 1% less is a good thing. Does that mean Joker's going to beat Federer? But what made a difference there was the second serve win percentage. Federer's at 66. That's tops, baby. Nadal, 61. Djokovic, I didn't do the math this year. I usually do. It's under 58. If you look at the leaderboard at the Wimbledon page, you can save yourself the trouble and just know it's under 68. That's a pretty big gap from 66. The ace count, Federer at 56 for the tournament, Djokovic 49, which is good, and his first serve has been pretty effective. But there's one big thing. I told you, I don't think at the beginning of this tournament, the reason why I thought Federer could potentially beat Djokovic in a final if it happened was because I don't think Djokovic is playing as good as 2014-2015 Wimbledon final when they met last time. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's my Federer bias and I'm a little bit delusional. But here's one thing that the Joker fans definitely won't like. Novak Djokovic has 20 double faults at the tournament. He is up there. There's only 7 players out of a 128-man draw who have 20 or more double faults. Guess who's number 1? My personal friend, Benoit Paire, who was spotted at a club recently arranging his water bottles like Rafa. They might not have been water bottles, actually. They might have been booze. Anyway, I thought that was funny. Back to the match, please. Stay on target. As good as Djokovic has been at this tournament, that 20 double faults is a bad sign. He's tied for, I believe, 6th place out of everyone. 128 people who played at this great tournament. And it's the thing I've noticed throughout this year with all the times Joker has lost. Because outside of the Australian Open in Madrid, Novak Djokovic has done a lot of losing this year. And the reoccurring theme is double faults and forehands gone awry. And when you watch that first set with Cousin Fed, that was the match I thought would be most relevant. It was more recent, so the conditions will be quite similar. And Cousin Fed, David Goffin, he plays an attacking style of tennis, and he's really ramped up his serve. He's up there on the double faults leaderboard as well, because he's really gone for a lot on his serve this year at Wimbledon, at least from what I've seen in the matches I've watched this year. Now, I know Djokovic won that match pretty easily, but he was down a break 4-3 in that first set. At that 3-all game when Djokovic is broken, it's that one play we keep seeing with Nishikori and again with Nadal, and I predicted in the last video that we'll see Roger use this to great effect against Djokovic, that slice backhand up the line. David Goffin hits a big forehand up the line, gets Djokovic on the sliding, split-looking stretch backhand, and then that slice low on this court. Again, the court is slow, but it is low. Djokovic hits a very uncomfortable-looking forehand with the ball being so low off the ground. David Goffin hits the ball right back cross-court, kind of behind Djokovic, comes into net. Djokovic misses wide on the pass. There's the break, the crucial break. Now, Djokovic rose the level and crunched him in Joker fashion. But the Roger Federer serve is going to be much more effective than any serve Djokovic has faced at the tournament, just like it was for Rafa. So the biggest thing in tennis is defending your serve. The big question is, will Roger be able to break Djokovic as much as he broke Rafa or even more? And I think even more. I think Rafa has actually been serving better at this tournament than Djokovic. And Roger Federer, first serve's been good as ever, but the second serve, it's all-time great right now for Roger Federer. This is his best second serving year in his career, amazing as that is. That might be a little different than Andre Agassi at his last run at the U.S. Open in 2005. It might be a little different than Ken Rosewall back in, I don't even know, it must be in the early 70s. I don't think those guys at the end of their careers were having their all-time best second serve numbers. And that's a big part of why Rafa, as good as Roger was with the first serve, that second serve was key in the tense moments when Rafa could have evened the score in the third or the fourth set. Now, throughout the tournament, I've complained about how slow the courts are. But I watched 2012, the semifinal, where Roger beats Novak Djokovic right before he goes to the final and beats Andy Murray. And they play with the roof closed, and the ball is moving extremely slow. And I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, this looks just like the way the courts are playing today. With the roof closed, they always talk about how it's an advantage for Federer, at least back then. I remember them saying it during the final, because remember they closed the roof after Roger drops a set to Murray, take a break as the roof closes, comes back, and Roger blows him away. And they said it helps Roger because that takes any wind or any weather conditions out of play. It makes it like an indoor court where Roger has even more control over the ball. But another thing it does is it raises humidity, which slows down the ball. So it was very slow conditions. And I know in 2012, okay, Roger's 7 years younger. He's probably moving better. But with the ball being slow and low, I know Novak Djokovic hits the ball so clean and has incredible precision. But the thing I noticed in the match yesterday with Rafa and Roger is a ball that's very low and very slow. It almost helps Roger outmaneuver at least Rafa and 2012 Djokovic. It kind of helps Roger not panic, stay calm, play the point, and find his opportunity to put the opponent, Djokovic or Rafa in yesterday's case, put them away. And again, with the low bounce that you get on grass, especially this year, lower than it's been in recent years, it's easier to put someone away by coming to net, by getting them out of position, coming to net, and getting the volley very low. There was one crucial point where Roger came to net and hit a very well-struck volley and a particularly low volley. And it wasn't like a drop volley. It kind of went right to Rafa. But I believe it drew an error. Now, maybe Rafa should have made that shot, but it just looked like Roger putting the pressure on Rafa to come up with a pass and keeping the ball low on this extra low year we have at Wimbledon was enough in a tight situation to win a big point. And I even saw David Goffin do it to Novak Djokovic in that first set. He had some good success coming to the net, and we know Roger's going to be way better at net and sensing when to come into David Goffin. So there is a lot of factors like those that really make me feel like Roger Federer is going to win tomorrow. But of course, Novak Djokovic, there's a reason why he's almost even with Roger and all these records I was talking about at the beginning of the podcast today. He's an all-time great. He might not be beloved like Roger and Rafa, but we can't deny it. He's one of the all-time greats. Now, I have one more question for you, and we'll wrap this thing up and go to bed and get ready for a great show tomorrow. A great Wimbledon show, I mean. Also, there will be a show as well from Coffee Break Tennis. How many shankerer moments will there be for Roger Federer? Do you remember when Roger Federer challenged a serve from Rafa that was in, pretty obviously in, after he had successfully returned it and Rafa had missed it, which would have been match point? He challenged it, and Rafa wins the point. And that face he made was priceless. I wish I had the picture for you. Now, Roger survived that moment, but I was thinking after that happened, because he had more match points on the Rafa serve, and eventually he had to serve it out. And on that changeover, before he served it out, I thought to myself, Roger's got to be thinking about that, because he could have won right there. Who knows? Maybe Rafa double faults on match point or something crazy. But Roger will never know, because he challenged and didn't get that match point. He had some other ones, but not that first one, which might have been the one. And I was thinking to myself, if he's thinking that, and then he gets broken, this match is probably going to go 5 sets. And who knows what will happen then. How close will it be with Djokovic? My guess, 4 sets. Same thing. Now, that's wishful thinking, because we all know that if it goes to a 5th, there's going to be an edge for Djokovic. But after the 2017 Australian Open run from Roger, I just have a feeling that he's going to have enough energy to take this thing to a 5th set, just like he did. Again, that's 2 years ago. Over 2 years ago now, so he's a little older. But if this match is very close tomorrow, can he survive something like that, like losing a match point? And we all remember the U.S. Open, two years at the U.S. Open, where Federer had match points on his serve. He had match points on the Joker serve the year before. Ends up losing. We all know how close it can be in this particular matchup. How about that overhead when Roger serves for the match that he missed? How many moments like that are there going to be? Luckily for Roger, aside from that second set, which was the whole thing was a bad moment for Roger Federer. Aside from that, these are really the only 2 major flub-a-dubs that I can think of for Roger. How many will there be tomorrow, and can he survive any of it, if that happens at all? Can he survive any of those moments? Anyways, hit the music. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Here's what we're doing tomorrow. For the patron saints, if Federer loses, of course I will be devastated. I'll do a podcast just for the patron saints only tomorrow, and I'll wait to do a video for everyone else on Monday after I've had a little time to get over the heartbreak. And if Roger Federer wins tomorrow, I'll do a video for everybody. How's that sound? If you think that's unfair, if you think that's despicable and terrible of me because you're a Joker fan or a Raw fan, comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. See ya!